Hey, I'm Nick Valente with Moog Music here at Moogfest, and I'm going to show you some of the features of the Matriarch. We'll start with the oscillator section. As you can see, there's 4 oscillators in the synthesizer. Right now I have them tuned at 4 different octaves. It gives us a really huge sound. Each one can be a triangle, a saw, or a pulse wave with a couple of different fixed pulse widths. And the pulse widths are modulatable via CV inputs on each oscillator. A super awesome and unique feature of this synthesizer is that it's also paraphonic, so we can split this into 2 groups of 2 oscillators. I'm just going to put them all in the same octave for this, which would be here. Or 4 groups of 1 oscillator each, so we can play some chords. Another really awesome feature of the oscillator section is going to be your hard sync, which lets you individually sync each oscillator to the oscillator to its left. This is particularly cool with 2-voice paraphonic mode because you can have 2 sets of 2 oscillator hard synced voices. We'll look at the mixer next. Fairly straightforward, though it's worth mentioning that we have a lot of drive here. This is basically a CP3 mixer, so when we overdrive it here, it gets really gritty. And when we have it in paraphonic modes, you can get some really kind of gnarly harmonics there. Moving to the filter section, we actually have 2 separate filters in here, which can be arranged as a stereo pair of low-pass filters, which is what we have set up now. And you'll hear that stereo field change as I adjust the spacing knob. We have individual control over the resonance of each filter as well. Keyboard tracking and envelope amount, and then you can also arrange these filters as a series high-pass, low-pass filter or a parallel high-pass, low-pass filter, so bandpass or notch, essentially. Moving along, you have 2 separate envelopes, a filter and an amp envelope, and you can actually switch that to be 2 separate amp envelopes using this switch here, one for the left and right VCA, so that you can get some cool stereo effects, as well as just leaving it on to drone. And finally, we have the stereo delay on the right of the unit. This is a high voltage bucket brigade based analog delay, very similar to some of our pedals and 500 series racks, and it sounds awesome. In this delay, you have control over the time and feedback as you would expect, as well as the spacing. So small timing changes between the left and the right side. And the mix, wet, dry. You can also put it into ping pong mode. For some more stereo effects. And you can sync it to the ARP clock. So let's take a look at the ARP. If we put that on sync, immediately you can leave it on just the ARP mode. We'll put play and hold. You can change the octave range, 1, 2, or 3, as well as the direction. That's the order you play it in, forwards, backwards, or random. addition to the standard Arpeggiator functionality, we actually have a polyphonic sequencer. So I'll flip this switch here over to the right and play a sequence in. When I flip back to sequence, I can hit hold and play, and I'll push down a note and hear my sequence again. A couple cool things happen as a consequence of having our 4-voice paraphonic mode and this particular sequencer. One is that if we switch all of these octaves to be separate, you'll effectively cycle through inversions of the chords that you're playing for some really rich melodic content without having to play it again every time. Another really cool thing that you'll see happen is because the 4-voice mode will cycle through the oscillators, if I use a regular ARP, I can set all these oscillators to different octaves and different wave shapes. When I hold on a chord, you'll hear it cycle through them and get all of those different shapes and frequencies. So really rich textures coming out of that. This modulation is normal to the pitch, pulse width, or cutoff, and scaled by the mod wheel. So if we go to square waves here, you can get some really cool effects. This modulation bus can be hard synced, so easy to get it to trigger with the clock. And you have a nifty feature here which you let your pitch control only 2 and 4 or 1 and 3, which is great for duophonic hard sync tricks. In addition to a few standard waveforms, sine, saw, ramp, and square, we have a couple of unique ones. One is a sample and hold that is linked to a triangle, so you'll get stair steps up and down. And one is a random sample and hold with a longer slew rate, so it's like a sine wave that kind of varies in amplitude randomly. You also have a couple of utility sections here. These attenuators may look familiar from the Mother 32. They are CVable, so that you can control the position with a CV voltage in. You have 4 of those. Unlike the Mother 32, they are reversible as well, which is a great feature. Additionally, I have 2 separate mults. These are 4-way mults. They can be also used as passive summing. You can skip the mixer and mix the oscillators in one of the mults if you want. That would be useful because the mixer is also available as a CV mixer to you. And you have a second simple utility LFO over here, which is going to have a controllable rate in, and then a triangle and square out. And that, in a nutshell, is our new Moog Matriarch. Thanks for taking a look.